Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Today we are talking about our rank 4 spells, top and bottom 5. Yes, we're going to keep on rolling through here, and things are going pretty well so far. As usual, some honorable mentions at the end. This time in Archives of Nethys, there are 147 spells on rank 4. I know I didn't mention the rank 3 number. It's between 147 and 189. There you go. Can't remember the number off the top of my head anymore. As usual, I've got some criteria here. Things I'm looking at: number of actions, range, duration, targets, effects, scaling, incapacitation, ease of use, whether they're good for prepared casters, if they should be added to your repertoire, signature spells, full caster versus Gist versus Martial with free archetype, all those things to keep in mind as we talk about these spells, even if I don't mention them specifically that went into my ranking. That being said, let's go ahead and dive in here and look at our best and worst, starting with Procyal Philosophy. And no, I'm not sure I said that correctly. 2 actions, has the auditory enchantment good and uncommon traits. Yes, I know I don't usually put anything in here with any of the traits that we don't use anymore, but I think this one's okay. This is for Arcane, Divine, and Occult casters, has a range of 120 feet, and you target 1 creature, lasts for a minute. You provide a magical floating manifestation that provides aid to the creature in question. On your turn, you can change the target to another creature in range as a free action. Aid is very strong. And even stronger the higher level you go. The modifier here on the aid check is your spell DC minus 10, which, if you're a full caster, would be 15 at level 7 when you can get a hold of this. 15 is a great modifier. That means when you pick this up, you will almost certainly succeed and have a really good chance at a critical success already on your aid checks. Then you get to aid from a distance without preparing that aid round after round. That's extremely potent. You get this free aid round after round. Yes, you need to choose which ally to aid each round, but that's also powerful. You can switch it up and give it to whoever you think is going to have the best actions they're going to take that aid can set up. Aid as a free setup each round for a combat is just, at extreme range, so solid that it fits for any action being taken. And I love the flavor here, right? You've got something floating next to them, encouraging them, telling them how they can do it better, whatever it is. So much around that is so fun. And I love anything that leans into allies aiding allies. This is just a cool spell. Mutilate. 2 or 3 actions, has the manipulate and uncommon traits. Arcane, Occult, and Primal casters, has a range of 40 feet. You target 1 creature, they get a fortitude save. You deal 1d4 slashing damage to yourself to deal 5d8 to the other creature. This does 1d8 persistent bleed if they critically fail. If you spend 3 actions, it becomes a 5-foot burst. As a single target spell, this is just bad. It's low damage. The rider is only on a crit fail. You have to damage yourself. Granted, it's a tiny amount of damage, I know, but you're still hurting yourself. And then if you spend an extra action, you get a very pathetic 5-foot burst. Or you can spend 2 actions, upcast Fireball, hit everything in a 20-foot burst for 8d6 damage, which is more on average. And this just doesn't line up with any damage from 4th rank spells. The rider here, again, is just, it's only on a crit fail, and there's even a downside. Again, the 1d4 damage I know is tiny. I know it's more thematic than anything. You're still taking damage to do bad damage to 1 creature, or bad damage to maybe 2 creatures with an extra action. And you can even damage yourself, by the way, and do no damage if they crit succeed on this. They would take no damage, and you just hurt yourself for no reason. It seems silly. Chromatic Ray. 2 actions, has the attack, evocation, and light traits. Arcane and Occult casters can use it. Has a range of 30 feet. You target 1 creature. On a hit with your spell attack roll, you roll a d4 and get one of the following results. You either deal 30 fire damage, these are straight numbers, no rolling, 40 acid damage, 50 electricity damage, or 25 poison damage, and give them a fortitude save against being enfeebled 1 for a minute, or feeble 2 for a minute on a crit fail. You double the damage on a critical strike, and you heighten to 6th rank to increase not only the damage from the options, but to add new options, because you're going to roll a d8 instead of a d4, and the new options are interesting. Normally, I don't like random in spells. In this case, all the damage options are at least slightly above what I consider the base average for the level. So 8d6 is kind of your base for rank 4. You can look around the spells, that's kind of how it works, right? It's kind of 2d6 per spell rank is your base for good damage, and that gives us an average of 28 damage. So even the fire damage, which is 30 here, is slightly above that. Now poison's below it, but there's a rider on it. I still don't love the poison, but there's a rider on it. Okay. Some of them are really high. Electricity doing 50 damage is a lot of damage for this spell rank. If you got a crit, yes, this is crazy high damage. I do like that you have an option to target AC. Sometimes it's easier to hit AC than it is to have a creature fail a save. Not always, and this isn't great for a Gish because you don't want to use an attack trait spell and then attack. But other than that, I think it's very interesting. Now it's only single target rather than AoE. Again, if you compare it to Fireball, if you can hit multiple creatures, that's different. This is specifically if you're in that single target situation. But I also just kind of like the feel of it. It just is kind of fun to me. Is it broken in any way? Is it so powerful you can't ignore it? No, but it is kind of a fun spell targeting option. And sometimes you just want to blast something and hit them with good, honest, straightforward damage that hits harder than other spells at the rank. Invisibility Curtain. 3 actions, has the illusion trait, arcane and occult casters, range of 120 feet. You create a 60 foot by 10 foot by 1 inch thick wall. All creatures on each side are invisible to those on the other side. If a creature crosses, it becomes visible to those on the other side. If any creature rendered invisible uses a hostile action, the spell ends. This immediately sounds really intriguing. In some ways, it feels better than one of my 3rd rank spell that I really loved, which is Wall of Shadow. This sounds better because invisibility means dark vision just has no effect, and you can set up for the ambush again, right? Well, kind of. But that last line kills the spell. All creatures are invisible to all other creatures on the other side. So if an enemy minion does anything hostile on either side of the wall, unless it's only halfway through the wall, this ends. So you position it so there's only one enemy with you and your allies on one side of the wall, and all the others are on the other side. Once that enemy or any ally gets to take a turn and anybody makes a hostile action, the spell just ends because everybody on one side was invisible to the ones on the other, which means somebody used a hostile action and it just ends. This is going to end the turn after it's cast most of the time. And then you did what? Made one hostile action harder to make? That doesn't seem worth it at all. And you can, of course, just still cross the wall and like you could with Wall of Shadow and, bypass the effect. But again, it's just going to end. That last line is so painful for this spell. I just don't see how it was put in there. There are better ways this could have been handled that could have made it more interesting and made it an actual upgrade over Wall of Shadow. But from a bad wall to a good wall. Wall of Mirrors. 2 actions, mind you, not 3. Has the Conjuration and Rare traits. Is arcane and occult casters. And has a range of 120 feet. You're going to create a 50 foot by 20 foot by 1 inch wall. Each panel that is 10 foot by 10 foot has AC 10, hardness 10, and 40 hit points. The wall is immune to critical hits and precision damage. All creatures on each side are concealed to those on the other side. Okay, so this means you know where they are. If you want to target somebody on the other side, it takes a flat check, but it's only DC 5. If a creature strikes the wall, it makes a basic will save against 4d4 mental damage. Now, this is a wall I can get behind. Concealed isn't as good as invisible by any stretch of the imagination, but this takes work. First, it's a solid wall, right? So you're either going to climb over it, fly over it, or destroy it. If placed in the middle of enemies, keeping some on your side, some on the other side, you can probably easily take apart the encounter, right? If the enemies on the other side of the wall want to get through, they're going to, again, either have to go over, which a lot of enemies can't do, or try to go through, which they're going to hurt themselves to do to try to get through to their allies. And 40 hit points doesn't sound like a ton, but it's 40 hit points with hardness that can't be crit. That makes the 40 go a really long way. Yes, other things can be, like, it could be dispelled or whatever, but let's assume creatures have to get through the wall by damaging it. This means they're taking damage, so by the time they do get through the wall, you've probably already taken out their allies on your side of the wall, and now they're walking through this wall already hurt. And then add the fact that it's only 2 actions to cast, and this is a really solid wall for the level. Daydreamer's Curse. 2 actions, has the uncommon attack, curse, enchantment, mental, and misfortune traits for arcane and occult casters. Has a range of touch and affects 1 creature. They get a will save. On a crit success, nothing happens. On a success, they get misfortune to medicine check, nature check, and survival checks. Any crit success on perception and skills with concentration becomes just a success, and it lasts for 10 minutes. On a fail, that same set of things becomes permanent. And on a crit fail, this works like fail, but all concentration checks act as 1 degree worse. There are several spells that work like this, but target different skills with misfortune. This could be any of those spells. I don't think any of them are good, but I'm using one as an example here. You could go an entire adventure, not an adventuring day, an entire adventure, and never see any enemy use a medicine, nature, or survival check. In fact, that seems very likely. Dropping their perception or ability to use concentration things has some value, but it's just turning crit success into success, unless they crit fail their outcome here. Concentrate actions definitely come up. But again, that's just knocking crit success down to success. And that's fairly likely to happen, but you had to walk up to a creature and touch them for this to be a thing, which you probably don't want to do. So the only value you really get out of this is that, turning crit success, perception, and skill checks with concentration into success. Remember, it's skill checks with concentration. Skill checks. Again, hardly ever used compared to things like spells with a concentrate rate. This is skill checks. And it's 10 minutes on a success. So it's definitely the whole combat. If they run away, maybe another combat if you chase them. If it's permanent, yes, if they're a creature that goes away. But again, those are very few and far between. You're dealing with creatures in one combat. Affecting skill checks is probably not going to be the thing you care about, unless you're affecting things specifically like athletic skill checks, and that's the only time I can see something like this actually mattering, but definitely not this one. This is just going to feel like a waste. Zephyr Slip. This is a reaction, has the air, manipulate, and move traits for arcane and primal casters. The trigger is that a creature enters a square within 5 feet of you. You fly up to 15 feet away from it. That's the reaction. If you heighten it to 6th rank, it's 25 feet away, and if you heighten to 8th rank, you can have you and up to 5 allies within 30 feet of you that get to fly 25 feet away as a reposition when you do this trigger. Yes, I know this has the move trait, so it can trigger reactive strikes, and that's not ideal. But we haven't seen something like this until now, this escape button. Most creatures don't have reactive strike. That's true. The majority do not. And you can usually tell if they do. If they walk up to you, they got a sword and a shield, some big two-handed weapon or something, they probably have reactive strike. Other things probably don't. And of course, you can always find out more about them or your allies can. So in most cases, this is messing with the enemy plans more than it's doing anything else. It's probably just getting them to waste actions, but in the case where they're going to spend 2 actions to run up to you with a thought to strike you, they get near you, you fly away, they enter their action. Now if they want to get up to you, they have to use that other action just to move again, or do nothing. Melee creatures are especially hurt by this, where they might, even if they use just 1 action to run up to you, now they have to waste another action to get up to you again to attack you. You've completely offset their plans, and now they can't move away from you, which they might have wanted to after they attacked you. This can be a huge, huge change to what enemy creatures are trying to do, And I like that sometimes you can use just a reaction to get a lot of value. Most of the reaction spells I've looked at don't feel very valuable until this one. Now, would I heighten it to 6th or 8th rank? Those are really high ranks. I don't know that I would. Flying 25 feet away isn't necessarily a lot better than 15 because it's still probably just one move action for the enemy. But getting everybody to fly away and reposition themselves can be really useful, but 8th rank is a high rank. So I like it as a 4th rank spell for you as a caster. Probably not as a Gish, but as a caster, this is going to feel good. Talking Corpse. It takes 10 minutes to cast. Has the uncommon, concentrate, and manipulate traits. Is for divine and occult casters. Has a range of touch, new touch 1 corpse. The corpse gets a will save. This lasts 10 minutes. The corpse has to have a mouth with which to speak, and you ask it 3 questions. If the corpse crit succeeds, it can lie or refuse to answer, and it haunts you, making you unable to rest for 24 hours. That's bad for you. On a success, it can lie or refuse to answer. On a fail, it must be truthful, but can be short, cryptic, or kind of stall for time. On a crit fail, it can still try and make its answers difficult, but it gets a -2 to its chance to deceive you. Take any comparison to the D&D movie out of your mind. This is not that. There's always a chance to revive a corpse that wants to talk to you and is completely fine telling you whatever you want to answer. That can be used here. So I don't want to pretend like that's not a thing. But you can't guarantee that. You can be almost absolutely certain this won't end the way you expect it to. Even the best case scenario, you could provide no real value, and the crit success is actively bad for you. I want to like this because it's fun. I really like spells that are generally like this spell, but they made it feel terrible for any case other than a corpse instantly wanting to be your ally. If it's any other case, this spell is going to give you either weird outcomes or bad outcomes. And I don't know, it becomes a feel-bad spell. Not a worthless spell, but a feel-bad spell. Ooh, I'm going to pronounce this one wrong. Ymeri's mark? I don't know. 2 actions: concentrate, curse, detection, fire, and manipulate. For arcane, divine, and primal casters, has a range of touch. 1 creature gets a fort save. You place a rune on the creature. While on the creature, it is fatigued. That just is the case. You can detonate by dismissing the spell, dealing 5d6 fire in a 10-foot emanation that includes the target. They get a basic reflex save. All those targets that were blown up get a basic reflex save. The save against the mark determines the duration. If they crit succeed when trying to place the mark, nothing happens. If they succeed, it lasts for a minute. If they fail, it's a week, and if they crit fail, it's unlimited. Heightening by +1 does another 2d6 damage on the explosion. Fatigue is okay. We talked about it in the rank 3 spells, but it's okay. Dropping a creature's AC and saves by 1 is not a bad thing. That's a nice status effect to have, especially because it's status. The AC drop will stack with being off guard. So between the two, you can really drop an AC of a creature. What I really love is that all you need to get here is a success. As long as they succeed or worse on their save, you got all you needed from it to be good for the combat. Then you just wait for the creature to get near their allies and then dismiss it for a bomb to go off. Even without that, if the debuff helped you and allies, then this was good, right? You've got the debuff on top of the damage. If it was just the damage, this would be silly. I could just drop a fireball and do more than this. This is a way to drop AC until you're done fighting that creature till they're really low health, and you blow them up and hit their allies. Yes, it's touch, and I don't generally like that, but it makes this pretty decent for a Gish. You touch a creature, you attack it with a strike afterward. Maybe they want to leave because you're a threat. This makes them want to go by their, allies and try to flank with their allies more. You can blow them up, maybe hitting an ally of yours, but probably doing more to enemies than to your allies. So I like it because it's an interesting Gish option that I think is worth consideration when you pair it with other things you want to do up close. Rigid form. 1 action, would concentrate and manipulate traits for arcane and primal casters. This lasts 1 minute. While active, if you are targeted by a polymorph effect, you can use your reaction to attempt to counteract it. If you heighten to 6th rank, this is a 10-minute duration. Okay. How often are you being polymorphed? If it happens all the time, how often, when you know ahead of time, you're going to be polymorphed? It's not like you can cast this to counteract a polymorph effect at time. You have to know it's coming and cast this spell preemptively so that you can use a reaction to counteract the polymorph effect. You could easily also just make the reaction and fail and still get polymorphed. All this is doing is giving you the chance to counteract a polymorph effect if one comes up. Thankfully, it's only 1 action, but it's 1 action and a 4th rank spell slot. You're giving up that 4th rank slot and potentially the preparation slot or whatever. Or God forbid you actually put this in your repertoire, because how could you need this all the time? I just don't see how it's going to come up enough, and when it does, it may not even work, but that's true for all spells. But I'm just saying, like, it's a setup spell for something that you're very unlikely to ever need. And that's the top and bottom 5. So what about those honorable mentions? As usual, well, as usual, I also have 4 here. So what are my honorable mentions for 4th rank? Mercurial Stride. You get movement with sickened and damage to a creature that you move through on the way. So it's kind of a fun reposition with some added effects for a creature who dared to be between you and where you want it to go for arcane and occult casters. Then we have Wall of Fire, which is a good damaging spell. That's a way to keep creatures at bay and kind of divide up the battlefield. Even if they can go through, they're going to have to take damage to do so, and it's significant damage. That's for arcane and primal casters. Then we have Aerial Form, which is a solid battle form. So I don't usually talk about a lot of the form spells. I like it because it's going to give you really good flight speeds and still decent combat ability for arcane and primal casters again. And Unfettered Movement. This is a way to ignore circumstance penalties to speed and guarantee success to escape immobilization and grapples and all things like that for arcane, divine, and primal casters. Really nice support spell. And what are our good upcasts for the rank? Now, I talked about a few. Well, I talked about 1 before. Again, I'm not going to mention it. There's things like Heal that are just always good upcast. So you can always do that here. But Invisibility. This is when Invisibility becomes continuing to be invisible after you use hostile actions. This is greater invisibility, and that's really useful if you just want to make sure that creatures have a hard time targeting you because you're constantly hidden and you can just still do your own thing. This is great for that. So keep yourself invisible, more likely to stay alive. Then we have Enlarge. At this point, you can go to Huge Size, which adds even more reach and a greater damage boost, but also remember, at Huge Size, you can grapple larger things. So Huge Size is actually really interesting. Then we have Water Walk. At this rank, you can target 10 creatures that can walk on water for an hour. This is a great way to give your whole party the ability to just cross over that hazard, no problem. And like Heal, another one that's just good to upcast for the damage for the area is Fireball. You can always upcast Fireball. It keeps with kind of the consistent plus 2d6, keeping it good on rank every time. It's already got the good range and area, so just always consider Fireball can be something worth upcasting or making signature spell. The other ones I mentioned are specific to spell ranks that they're, heightened at 4 makes them good. Things like Fireball and Heal make good signature spells because upcasting them to any rank is still useful. And that's it. Which rank 4 spells do you like to put on your creatures? Did I put any of your favorites in my bottom 5? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, adventure on.